Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to the School of Personal Finance. In today's video, we're going to talk about home ownership and if it is either an asset or a liability. Now, it was about 20 years ago that I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, one of my favorite books of all time, and it did really change my life going forward. But he famously said in that book that your home, your primary residence, is a liability. It is not an asset. And the reason for that was because it takes money out of your pocket every month. It is an expense. And when you own assets put money into your pocket every month. So in this video, we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I thought of no better way than for me to actually share my journey of homeownership, which hasn't been, the straightest path forward. I haven't done the traditional way of homeownership, and I'll explain that. But the house I'm living in now, this is the third house that we've owned, and I've been here for almost 10 years. So I'll tell you about my journey and the lessons that I learned along the way and how I looked at home ownership throughout the years in this video. All right, let's get to it. All right, a couple things real quick. I asked this question about your home being an asset versus a liability on LinkedIn in a poll just this past week, and I've been having fun with polls in there. I'm trying to post a poll once a day over in LinkedIn, so head over there and follow me and answer my polls every day. I would greatly appreciate it. And the second thing is, go check out my education center over at schoolofpersonalfinance.com. See what I have going on over there. I would love for you to join that as well. So to answer the question, and this isn't a cop-out, but I think it's both, and it really depends on the situation. So I do think that it is a liability and it can bury you if purchased incorrectly, right? If your mortgage payment is too high compared to what your income is, if you lose a job, if something happens, if you don't put a big enough down payment down, and we have, a 2008, 2009 type of correction in the housing market, you could completely get obliterated. And I watched that happen all around me during that time period. But at the same point, I think that it is an asset and it is a way to force savings. And with Americans in general, including myself, finding it so hard to save by having a mortgage that you have to pay every month, you are building equity. You are paying down the loan on that. And over a long period of time, homes appreciate. Even though we have ups and downs, over the long term, homes do appreciate. So I do think that it is a great way to have long-term savings, to build wealth, and to set yourself up for retirement where you do have this home, which at that point I believe will be an asset, and you could use it in strategic ways. But it really does depend. But as you're going through life, it feels like a liability because you have to stroke that big ass check every month, and it's not a great feeling. But you know what? We all have housing expenses no matter how you slice or dice it. So even if you're renting, you have a housing cost, and that's what we need to compare it to. And your rent, those are going up big time these days. So by owning a home, you have a fixed payment at least. Your taxes and insurance might be going up every year, but nowhere near at the same pace that rents are exploding higher right now. So it's a loaded question. I don't think that there's a straightforward answer, but I do love the way that Robert Kiyosaki looks at it. But the truth is, we all have to live somewhere, and we're going to have a housing expense. So you want to do it as strategically as possible and whatever fits your situation the best. So that's my long-winded answer to that question, which I don't even know if it answered the question or not, but those are my thoughts on it. All right, so now I'm going to walk you through my story of home ownership over the last 20 years. And I think that you will find it helpful because I haven't done normal things. I mean, there are some things that I've done that have been a little bit outside the box, and I've definitely gotten help along the way. So now I got married in 2003, and it was important to us to buy our first place that we lived in. We knew the area that we wanted to be in. We wanted to buy a 2-bedroom condo. We had our eye on stuff. We were shopping for the place that we wanted to live for the year leading up to us actually getting married. So we were prepared for it, and we were saving money. We were both living at home after we graduated from college. So there is that support again. I was able to save basically all the money that I made because I was still living at home. So we were saving for a down payment. And then on top of that, we were lucky in the fact that when we got married, my in-laws paid for the wedding. So the wedding gifts as well, between that and the money that we had saved, we had enough in the down payment to be able to purchase that first condo. All right, so let's talk about the numbers. So we saved like $50,000 to buy this condo, and it was $190,000 purchase price, or $189,000. So we put 20% down, and then we upgraded everything. So we put in a new kitchen, new bathrooms. We spent basically the rest of our cash doing that, and we loved it. And we lived there for 3 years, and we were very happy there. Now, at the time, we both had very stable jobs. I was working at a bank at the time. My wife was a elementary school teacher. we had good incomes. We weren't getting rich, but we had decent incomes and it was very manageable. Our payment wasn't a lot, right? We didn't buy more than we needed to. We had the down payment. In my mind, we were doing everything the right way. We got a 30-year fixed rate mortgage and we were going. We were still able to save a lot in our retirement accounts. We were doing well as far as cash flow goes. So, the first point is we didn't overextend ourselves. We could have bought something that was more expensive at that point. And, we didn't need that. We weren't even really thinking about it, to be honest with you. We just wanted to, move out and move in together. And we thought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo was the perfect place to start doing that. Now, we didn't know it at the time, but it was really the perfect time to be a first-time home buyer. So we did get lucky here because the next few years, prices just moved higher and higher. Almost feels like it feels, today with prices moving up. So as a few years went by, we started talking about having a family and starting for our first child, and we decided that it would be a good idea to go ahead and sell this place where we've done pretty well with and buy a bigger place. And we wanted to go into a townhouse. And the purchase price on this thing, it was $395,000. So the market had gone up a lot. The condo that we bought just 3.5 years earlier for $190,000, we were able to sell it for $290,000. So it gained $100,000 just over that 3-year period, and it put us in a strong position to be able to go ahead and upgrade, to take a step up and buy a bigger place. Now, we made the decision to put 30% down on the new place. So we had made $100,000 on the first place. We took that entire $100,000 plus another $20,000 or so and put it down on the new place that we were buying. And one thing that we did was, at the time, home equity lines of credit, they were very popular. They were giving them away to anybody at that point, back in 2000. This was the end of 2006, the beginning of 2007. And we got a home equity line of credit. Even though we didn't use any of it, we just got it for 10% of the value of the home. So they issued it to us at closing. So we had some availability if we wanted to pull some equity out of the house. And that ended up being a very good thing to do because we were able to get our hands on some money, if we needed to. Then in the summer of 2007, we had our first child, my son Ryan. And my wife decided to stay home and take a leave from work. So she was home at this time. She was kind of hoping, I think, that she would never have to go back, but she stayed home for a few years with my son, and I was working at Wachovia Bank at the time. And then we all know kind of what happened after that. 2008, 2009, we hit the Great Recession, and everything changed pretty quickly. So the first big thing that changed was my job, because Wachovia basically went out of business and they were taken over by Wells Fargo. And for my job, everything changed overnight. They came in, they changed the comp plan. I became very unhappy very quickly, and I had to do something different. So I had to make a move. Not only that, but all of our investments were going down big time as well. I made the mistake of owning my company stock in a brokerage account, so I lost that money. My retirement accounts were getting beaten to hell. The equity in my home had all basically disappeared. So we were pretty down and out at this time, and I was very stressed out. And I made a change with jobs. So I left Wells Fargo basically right when it happened, and I went to MetLife, and I took a chance on a fully commissioned job, on top of all of this. So very stressful time for us. And, we did end up getting through it and things started to turn around. So we didn't go anywhere. We stayed in the home. We were still able to pay our bills. It was great that I had that home equity line as a buffer. I mean, we still had some cash in the bank as well to kind of carry us through, but it was just a good thing that even though I didn't know that I was really doing it, that I did have a plan in place. I did have levers that I could pull in case of an emergency, right? You never know what life is going to throw at you. And luckily, I had that home equity line and I had some savings in the bank that, kind of brought us through that period of time. And then the next school year, my wife went back to work. I started doing well at MetLife and we were off to the races again. And then a couple years later, my wife gets pregnant with our second child. And now at this point, the townhouse that we were living in, it really wasn't big enough. It was 2 beds, 2 bath. So having a second child, which was a girl, we decided that it was time for us to go and to get our own home. And, we're thinking a lot about school districts and where we wanted to be. So we looked at this purchase as being a very long-term purchase. And this is where we ended up now today. Now, this was around the end of 2011, the beginning of 2012, and the housing market still hadn't really come fully back where I was in that townhouse, at least. Houses, they definitely recovered. Prices were starting to go up, but I didn't want to sell that house at that point. So we made the decision. I always wanted to invest in real estate. I hadn't done it before. So we made the decision that we were going to turn that townhouse into our first rental property. And on top of that, we made the decision that we wanted to actually build our house. So we were on the hunt for a nice piece of land where we'd be able to go ahead and build our house. And again, this is where I had the support and help with my family, because my father, he helped us build this house. So he had a lot of contacts, he knew a lot of people, and he was able to be here and actually be the general contractor when we built this house. So I wouldn't have been able to do it without that, and it was a risk at the time. So there were definitely pieces that I had to put in place in order to make that happen. So we got lucky, we found land that was perfect. We were able to get a land loan to purchase the property. I think we had to put 20% down on the land itself, and the land, it was like $210,000 for this 3-acre lot that we found. So we had to have the money. I was able to pull from that home equity line of credit when we did that, along with other savings, to go ahead and buy the land. And then we got a tenant into our townhouse, which was an experience in itself. And then we moved in with my in-laws. So this is where family, came to the rescue again. I'm sure that they were thrilled to have, me, my wife, and my son, my pregnant wife, all move in with them for a while we were going to go ahead and build this house. So now, building this house over the next 7 or 8 months, it was a challenge, and it was hard with the bank. So I had to find a bank that would actually do a construction loan, right? Because I didn't have the money to lay out to build this house, and there was no house there to get a mortgage on. So I needed a construction loan, and I found a small community bank, after going through many different banks and trying, that would finally give me the loan to do this. And they did it in tranches. So I would have to submit to them all the work that was done. So I would have to go ahead and pay for, let's say, the first tranche, and let's say it was $40,000. I would have to go ahead and pay for that, and then the bank would come, inspect it, and then reimburse me. And then I'd have to go ahead and pay for the second tranche of work to be done. They'd come and inspect it and give it back to me. So it was a juggling act. It was difficult. And the way that I did this was I had to take a loan from my 401k. So I took a loan from my 401k, did the work, got the bank to give me the money back, and then I went through the cycle of going through the different tranches to actually build this loan. But the bank was great. They were very flexible with me, and it enabled me to be able to do this. But it was a stressful time in my life, and especially, picking everything out and going through with the house, and we tried to do some of the work ourselves to save money and, cut corners on things here and there. So it was definitely a challenge and a very interesting time in my life, especially with my wife being pregnant. So you could just imagine, by the end of it, she was just like, I don't care what you do anymore, just get it done. So it was definitely pretty crazy. But financially, from an investment perspective, and that's how I was looking at this, from an investment perspective, even though it was going to be our primary home, I figured that we were saving like $60,000-$70,000 by GCing it ourselves and doing some of the work in there. Now, once it was all said and done, I was able to go ahead and wrap that construction loan into a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And the mortgage rates, they were attractive at that time as well. And I did the same thing again. I got a home equity line for the amount of equity that I had built into the house by GCing it ourselves. So at the end of it, the bank came out, they did an appraisal, they put a value on it, and our mortgage was only going to end up being around 70% of what that was, what the appraised amount was. So the bank allowed me to do a home equity line on the back of that as well. So again, I had some access to money if I needed it. Now, with the townhouse that I was renting, I found out the hard way that I did not like managing the property myself. So I did take the first opportunity that I could, where I thought that the market had basically rebounded enough and that we were in a good situation to go ahead and sell that property. But it actually never even got back to our purchase price. So it came close. I forget exactly what I sold it for. And I definitely made out better than if I would have sold it back in 2011 when we moved out. I think I rented it for an additional 4 years, I want to say. I think it was 2015 that I went ahead and I sold that property. And then fast forward a year, the housing market is doing well. Everything is going well. The economy is strong, right? I'm doing well at my job. My wife is doing well. Everything is going great. And I still wanted to invest in real estate, right? I just didn't want to invest in New York locally where the property taxes are very high. The properties didn't cash flow. I knew I didn't want to manage it myself. So I was doing a lot of research and I decided to invest in the Midwest. But what I did at that time was I decided to refinance our mortgage. So I refinanced, I did a cash out. So I did a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. The interest rates were lower. So I was able to pull cash out and my payment really didn't change that much because I was able to get a lower interest interest rate on it. And what this did was it accelerated my real estate investments. So I did have cash to the side. I was saving money to be able to buy something. So between the combination of those, I basically went full force and I started buying rental properties in the Midwest. So just by pulling money out of this house, by using my primary residence as an investment, I went ahead and I took that money and I bought additional cash flowing investments, right? So assets, things that were putting money in my pocket. Now the equity in my house had grown a lot and I didn't want to wrap it all into a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So I did some cash out, but then I also did another home equity line of credit behind that I could use to buy future properties. So between both of those sources, I really hit the gas and started buying properties at a pretty, fast clip. This is 2016 and then through all of 2017 as well. Now I remember very vividly when I started doing this, I was thinking, the housing market has been very strong since the bottom of 2009, right? 2010 to 2017, at that time, I was thinking, I might be buying at the top of this market and I'm probably going to regret it a few years from now. But as you could see, the opposite happened. I mean, things just kept on going up so strongly. So for people who are even looking to buy houses now, I know it feels like very painful and very tough to be buying at the height of the market right now, but you just don't know what's going to happen in the future. Like personally, I do feel like prices could soften a little bit, but who the hell knows? So one of my favorite quotes when it comes to real estate is, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. And that's how you get wealthy with real estate, right? You buy it and you hold it for a long period of time. But this home, really the journey of all three of these homes, it is what led me to be able to buy a bunch of rental properties, that have given me this passive income, this cash flow in my pocket. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't look at my primary residence as an investment vehicle. If I didn't try to get strategic and save money in certain places and have these home equity lines in place, be able to cash out, refinance, take that money, buy investment properties with it. A lot of people would look at that as being very risky to do. And I'm not gonna lie, it is risky to do. Now, you could say that I've been lucky that we've been in this rising housing environment, and if it goes the other way, that I could get buried. But now I'm at the point that I've been paying down all of these mortgages where I do have a lot of equity in these rental properties because the prices have skyrocketed up. And even my primary residence, the value has doubled since we built it back in 2012. And the end game for me might be that once my kids are all grown and out of the house, that me and my wife, we sell this house and we'll have a ton of equity in it at that point. We'll be done paying for the mortgage, hopefully, or being close to being done paying for the mortgage. We sell it, we downsize, we buy the next place for cash, plus have extra money left over for retirement savings to spend in retirement. So, home ownership, yeah, I think it's an investment. All right, so that is it for this one. I hope that you found that story helpful. Please make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you are not subscribed to the channel already, and I will see you again next week. Thanks.